This is a show about facing fear, unlocking courage, and taking action.
Courage isn't necessarily a daunting thing.
It's going to give you more purpose. It's going to give you more drive.
It feels like making a courageous decision is going to get you closer to who you aspire to be.
It's knowledge plus faith plus action equals courage.
Really fight for joy. I aggressively chase joy in a way that I didn't before because I understand it's not promised to me. I'm not entitled to a life. I'm blessed with one. And I know how quickly it can go away.
I can only imagine waking up one morning, going out for a run, and I want to apologize to my guest because what a surprise that we're starting here. I think this is the right place to start, right? Like, life is a funny thing, and there's definitely moments where I look back at my life and they're like little short circuit moments. One of them was getting fired in New York City from an ad agency. Another was 9/11. Another was, I remember my mom, like I'm an adult, by the way, at the time, dropping me off at the airport flying to San Diego, where I kind of feel she knew I wasn't going back to the East Coast. Like this was it.
Yeah.
Like there's these little, so not all the short circuit moments are bad, but they are short circuit moments. And you're 24 years old. One morning you wake up and Katie McKenna, I'm going to have you take it from here.
Yeah. Well, I was 24. I was about to go to my finance job that I had just started like just about a month ago. And I like to start out my days either with a 5-mile run or a 10-mile bike ride. So I go, I take my bike out. I'm in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And we had just moved to this industrial part of Brooklyn. So I'm out, I finish up the 10-mile ride. I'm feeling like it's also, 2007. So like, I'm not surprising anybody that I was like a super cool hipster, like very cool, a cool hipster, but also working in finance. So a dichotomy, obviously. But I was like, feeling real artsy about it. I was like, okay, do you know what I'm going to do? Is there is this stunning sunrise. And I can see it. It's going to be over these low brick buildings. I can take a picture of it, on like my BlackBerry. And I will really be able to like take this sunrise and kind of keep it in my pocket all day. And I'm at a stoplight. I'm about to make this turn. And there's a truck on my left-hand side and doesn't have its indicator on. Neither does the Mazda behind it. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to indicate. I indicate that I'm going to go right. And I'm going to be able to just see the sunrise and then like be ready for my day. The light turns green and I push off of the ground and I take my right turn kind of wide and easy. And the truck that I thought was going to be going straight begins to turn. But I had gone too wide in my turn. So I couldn't do anything to move away from the truck. I missed being run over by the cab of the truck by only a few inches because I could feel it. But my body got pinned underneath the first two wheels of the 18-wheeler. And then the driver didn't know that he had run me over. So there was the brake. And I remember I had it in my mind enough to brace my body and put my arms up so that I wouldn't break my arms. I don't know how. And then the second set of wheels ran over my already crushed body. I was miraculously no head injury. And I was conscious the entire time. And I found myself in that, exactly as you'd said, a short circuit moment of being like worried about getting sweaty in my suit, getting into the New York City, like on the subway, to being like, oh my God, is this the end of my life? Like I thought I was in a video game, just being like, okay, can I just use another life? Like, is there a way that I could just wah, 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 and then be like, all right, let's start again. Realizing that I couldn't rewind it, but that this was a new phase of my life was unbelievable.
I should probably let the audience know that you and we had an awesome chat last week to prep for this. And one of the things that I learned was that you've done comedy in the past too.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm like, where the heck is Ryan Berman going? And he's talking about comedy. But like, does this explain why every bike rider is always in neon now? Is that why they're in
I
neon?
mean, that's got to be part of it. I mean, also, if you're going to go out, like, don't you want to be wearing something bright? Like, let's sparkle on the way out, shall we? Like, come on, please.
All right. So, I mean, what were you wearing? Were you just like in a hoodie sweatshirt, or
I was in I honestly, this is the hilarious thing is that I was wearing a t-shirt from my sorority, my sorority, like formal. Like, and I remember as they were cutting off my clothes in the ambulance, I was like, oh, but I really like this t-shirt. They're like, girl,
yeah?
you are dying. And I was like, what's going to happen with that? I really liked it. It was so cute.
I mean,
I was wearing,
my question, where it comes from isn't that I'm a jerk, right? It's like, I'm like, the truck didn't see you?
No. So, we found out later through police reports, there's that sign in the back of trucks. They're like, if you can't see my mirrors, I can't see you.
Mm.
I could see his mirrors, but because of where I was in this space, I was in a blind spot and he just didn't see me. And also he had just dropped off the load that he was supposed to. That's part of the reason why this is a ridiculous thing to say, but the fact that the truck was not full of items made it more likely that I survived. He just didn't see me. He wasn't looking, frankly. It was 6:00 in the morning in industrial Williamsburg. Like, he was like, who's riding their bike? I see the cars. It was the naivete that we have when you're 24 years old and you think you're unbreakable. You're like, oh, people will always be aware of me. That was just kind of what it was in my mind, frankly.
So somewhere between you kind of jumped immediately to the ambulance.
Yeah.
But there's got to be a moment you're not in the ambulance. You said you were conscious. Like, are you coming in and out? Are you like, holy shit, what's going on? Like, what's that space like?
Yeah, that's such a great question, Ryan. So I remember that time, I felt like it was hours, but I have a deep awareness, a deep memory. I can still hear my bones cracking in my mind. I remember the surprise of pain. There was a couple behind in the Mazda in the car behind where I was, and they came out and they were so unbelievably courageous and so brave, because there are so many people where you see something like that happen and you run away or you don't run towards it, right? These two people ran towards me, and this young woman, her name was Giselle, she asked me if I remembered my parents' phone number, and I amazingly did. And she, it makes me feel emotional how brave this was. She called my parents and left them a voicemail being like, your daughter was just in a really bad accident. I had no ID. I had nothing. There would be no way for my parents anyone to have found out where I was. There'd be no way. So she called my parents, left them a voicemail on their, voice machine. And then her boyfriend started directing traffic around me. And I remember while I was laying there, I wouldn't let myself blink. I had it in my mind that if I closed my eyes, then I would die. Obviously I was a theater major from Denison University. I understand medicine. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, in cartoons, you close your eyes, you're donezo. So let's just keep them open, kid. So
where did that come from?
I have no idea, 0%. But I think that the thing that made it miraculous, truly, was that I did not release. I didn't go into any darkness, because if I closed my eyes, then I think that the pain of what was happening would have really taken over my entire body.
All right, hold on. Listen, if you're a doctor, because that's how I believe that too. I believe, I don't know why, I don't know where, I don't know if it's the media, I don't know if you're a doctor or you study this, can you please reach out to me and let us know? Is there any facts to this?
Absolutely.
I will relay this to you, Katie. But because I feel the same thing. It's like you almost get hyper focused, probably on no, whatever that New Yorker in you. I'm sure there's pride in that too, right?
Yeah.
Kind of kicks into gear. How much pain are you in
Oh my
at this
God.
moment?
It was, I mean, literally and figuratively, it was crushing. Like I broke all of my ribs. I fractured my pelvis in 5 places. I tore up so many of my organs. The gear shift, not to be too graphic, but the gear shift of my bike went into my side and tore a hole in my side. So it was beyond anything. It was blackout pain, right? Like that's the kind of pain where it's so bad that your brain just wants to shut down because it doesn't want to process it. And I think that was also part of it, was that I had to be present with it. I don't know if part of the reason why I didn't close my eyes was also a fear, frankly, that I was afraid if I closed my eyes, I wouldn't open them again. So I just kind of stared up and like gulped up as much light and life as I possibly could.
I'm assuming Giselle also made a 911 call.
She sure did. Yeah, she made a 911 call. And can I tell you the craziest part of the story? Like there, gets crazier, but there was a man who parked while Giselle was sitting with me. A man parked his like Toyota Camry across the street. He is in a Madras shirt. I like could see him if I ever, and I have goosebumps thinking about it. Was in a Madras shirt, button down, cargo shorts, khaki, and a New York Yankees hat. And he came over to my spot on the asphalt. And he took his hand, and he was Hispanic, and he put his hand into mine. And he said, "Listen to me. I'm a pastor. I've spoken to God, and you're not going to die today." And I was like, "Do you promise?" And he said, I promise. And without knowing what religion I am, he took my hand and Giselle's hand and said the Our Father. He was the only person that day who told me that I was going to live.
In the first. Like, thank God you got to him first.
Exactly. I was like, I'm so glad you were first. If you were third, I'd be like, pound sand, bro. Like,
Yeah. I mean, again, that is the universe maybe doing what, crazy. So that's inception seeds in your head. And
absolutely.
Soon after, by the way, I like that it was a Yankee hat, not a Met hat. Sorry, guys. No. And so soon after, and like you said, like you're in an ambulance. So
yeah.
Did that feel like like an eternity, or did it feel like
It felt like a really long time. It felt like a really long time. And it also, as soon as they showed up, then everything became very real. And then everything seemed to speed up. The thing that was interesting about that was when I was in the ambulance, where I lived in Brooklyn, the closest hospital was a hospital that I had heard was not great. People had gone in there for emergencies and been waiting for hours at a time. And my best friend was a nurse, and she was like, "Listen, you have patient's rights. So if you're ever in a position where you're picked up by an ambulance, you can tell them where you want to go." So here you see somebody with like legit tire tracks on her body, 24 years old. They're cutting me out of my sorority t-shirt. I'm losing my mind about it. And I was like, "Listen, you can't take me to the closest hospital. You need to take me to the best trauma hospital." And the EMTs looked at each other and they were like, "You will probably die on the way to that hospital." I was like, "I don't care. You're going to have to take me there. I have patient's rights." And they did. And I made it miraculously, but like it's the only reason why I'm still alive. Truly.
When you're in the ambulance or when you get to the hospital, like obviously you're trying to keep this focus, right? You're trying to keep the eyes open. Was there any moment of relief when you get to do you have a blackout moment when you get to the hospital, or you're pretty much, no, I got to stay with my eyes open?
I was vigilant. I blinked 40 times from the time that I was run over, like that I counted until I was run over, until I was intubated. And I was vigilant and I was gripping. The doctor said that I was gripping the nurse's hand until I was given all the drugs that I needed to go into surgery.
And, a hearing in the ambulance, you're probably not going to make it. How many times do you think you heard that over the course of a few hours?
I heard it at least twice. And then I'd say 3 times if you count that the priest came in to give me my last rites while I was in surgery. So yeah, when I went in, it was the EMTs told me that I wasn't going to make it. And then when I asked the doctor closest to my face if I was going to live, she said, probably not. Yeah. So I just
Why?
yeah.
Why would they say that, you think?
I don't know. I don't know if it was because they wanted for me to get anything out that I needed to. I have no idea. I don't know what the end game is. Luckily I've had the opportunity to speak to a lot of medical professionals. I've gone to hospitals, I've spoken with doctors, I've spoken with emergency room doctors, just talking about patient care, patient experience. And it strikes me that it was really a deep anomaly. But I was able to kind of say all the things that I needed to say to this doctor and made them promise to tell my family. And, I'd gotten into a fight with my boyfriend the night before, like just being like, tell him I'm sorry. I have no idea. I don't know, but I feel really grateful that I'm the person that I am, that it ignited something in me versus blowing something out.
I mean, so you're alone, right? I'm assuming Giselle didn't get in the ambulance with
No,
you.
God, no.
Right.
No, it was just me by myself. Yeah.
Or the Yankee fan. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Or my little angel. Exactly.
Right. I can only imagine. So you're in this fight now and you're trying to get to where you need to go and you're trying to stay coherent.
Mm-hmm.
Your parents have a very uncomfortable voicemail.
Yes. I would say
right,
so, Ryan. I would say it was uncomfortable to say the least.
Just coming back from tennis.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Literally just dropping my sister off, my little brother, like off at school. And then my mom gets home and, it's the old answering machines.
Right. And so I'm sure, so this audience, we're talking about an event that happened 17 years ago now.
Yeah.
That probably feels like,
my gosh, 17 years. Yeah. It'll be 17 in October.
But I'm assuming they've shared their version from the moment they've heard the voicemail.
Yeah.
What do they do? Call every hospital? Like, how do they even find you?
That's exactly right. So my mom said that she got the voicemail and then stood in the kitchen and just screamed like she'd been in a murder. Like she just was like, she just as if someone had been murdered. She's like, I was like it was like a horror film that I was living. She's like, but I kept telling myself if Katie was able to say what the phone number was, then she had to be okay-ish. If so then my mom called my dad, and then he was working in New York City. And my mom just started calling every single hospital in the area. And that was why it took so long. It took a long time for her to find me because I wasn't at any of the area hospitals. But then she found the hospital and told my dad, told my brother who was in graduate school in New York City as well. And they all kind of descended upon the hospital where I was in about 10 hours of surgery.
Were you coherent enough to tell someone your name? Because you didn't have any idea on you.
Yeah. I was able to say Catherine Clark McKenna, which was amazing.
So when you go into surgery, I'm assuming at that moment, lights are out, right?
Lights are out.
Okay, so you kind of have to surrender a little bit at that moment, right?
Yeah.
Or you're like, no, I'm not gonna, like, do you remember or do you feel like you remember trying to hold on? Like,
I feel like I remember trying to hold on and knowing that they were having a deep awareness of just wanting more. All that I wanted, I didn't know what I wanted. I just wanted more. I wanted more life. I wanted more breaths. I wanted that. I didn't have a flashback, but I just was like, I felt like a hunger, a deep like starvation for just more and a terror that this could be it.
And then obviously it isn't it. I mean, right? Like, no. Like I guess my one question is when you're like, was it it's literally clinging for life, right? I mean, fighting for life, or did you feel like you were trying not to drown? Like, do you remember any of these feelings?
I remember feeling like I was in a dogfight. That was how it felt. It did not feel passive. It felt very active, only because after about 7 hours of surgery, I kept on bleeding out. and they couldn't find the source of the blood. And they'd given me more than half of the blood in my body had been from blood donations. And the doctors were like, we can't keep on doing, Katie keeps bleeding out. So if she does not start to clot within the next hour, we're going to have to let her go.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when my dad was like, no. You just keep giving her more blood. There's a lot of blood here. I've got tons of blood. I got blood for days. He's like, just keep doing it. And they were like, no, that means that Katie's body like can't sustain it and she will die. And my dad, they told my parents they could go into surgery to say goodbye. And that was when I got my last rites. And that my mom went in and she could only see my feet while they were doing surgery. But she like kissed my feet goodbye.
Crazy.
Just nuts. And so it's just so wild to just see their bravery in two different ways. My father's refusal to acknowledge that this would happen. And then my mother's not acceptance, but like being brave enough to go in and see your child in such a vulnerable position. I just can't even imagine. I just can't, you know.
When you're, I don't know how else to say it, like when you're bleeding out, like where? Is it the side? Is it on your side? Is it on?
It was because I had tears in multiple organs. Because it was in my, so I punctured my lungs in 8 different places and then tore up a lot of my internal organs. So the bleeding they found out was actually coming from around my bladder. And so they were able to cauterize it and then close it up and then be able to do surgery on the rest of my body. But it was very hard because it was in a place like with your diaphragm, because that can just continue to fill up with blood because there's so much space and it's hard to see. So because that was where most of the damage was.
So you were under for 10 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
When did the body start responding? Like, was it like, there's this time clock of an hour, obviously.
Yeah.
So like, is it to the doctors? Is it miraculous? Or is it just?
Yeah. It was 45 minutes after when my blood started to clot, and the doctors were gobsmacked. The doctor was like, "I've never seen anything like this in my life." He's like, in my entire career. He's like, "I've been a surgeon for 20 years. Never seen this." It's like, I've never seen a patient come back. He's like, "We almost gave up like 5 times, but she refused."
1, we've never had a story like this on the pod. 2, I don't think anyone's used the word gobsmacked before. So like you are pioneer. You are a pioneer.
And I appreciate that, because finding ways to sneak in some SAT words is kind of my ish. So I'm delighted that it's happening. I'm so amped.
Yeah. Thank you for surviving, because otherwise,
listen, the reason why I'm doing it is I was going under, I was like,
17 years.
The Courageous podcast is coming, Katie. Don't give up.
One day, right?
You know Ryan Berman. You don't know him yet, but he's going to be a really important person,
Just
Kate.
wait.
Don't you be a quitter.
All right. So when you come out of this thing, I mean, are you looking at fluorescent lights and like, which light are those? Pearly Gate lights? Is that hospital lights?
Yeah. I remember I woke up and I was intubated. So there was nothing, and I'm, as you can tell, I'm quite loquacious. Again, SAT word, nailed it. 2 in 1 podcast. I was my whole family was there. So my brothers, my sister, my brothers and my sister and my parents. And they were all in the room and they were around me, and I couldn't speak because there was a tube down my throat, but I could see them. And I was so thirsty. Like I really wanted to drink. So I kept on trying to sign H2O. And then when I couldn't have any water, and they explained that to me. And then when I took the tube out, I was aware of the fact that I remembered when I was in the ambulance that they cut off my clothes, that I was naked, and that I wasn't sure if they had covered me up because I couldn't see down. So I look, they take the tube out, and you think I'd be like, "I love you. I'm okay. I saw Jesus. He said everything's cool." And instead I just screamed out, "Am I naked?" Am I naked?
They're like, she's back.
They're
Kitty's
like,
back.
they're like, girl is back. Girl is back. I remember, and that was kind of the first thing that I said to my family. Like my Irish Catholic background was just like really raging. I was like, do not see any of my bits, please, Dad. You know, when I came to the thing that was the most confusing to me was I thought I went into surgery and then they fixed it because I was like, well, I'm alive. So we must be good to go. Can we go get some ice cream and I'd like Sauvignon Blanc and let's just be done with this, you know? And then I realized that I have no feeling in my body below my rib cage. Yeah, I was completely numb. And so I just was like, well, why don't y'all just like lift me out of here? And that was my first realization of being like, oh, sister.
Yeah. So now it becomes quality of life, right?
Mhm.
And hey, am I gonna ever walk again? Or
Yeah.
am I gonna anything resembling I hate this word, like I'm air quoting folks, normal,
Yeah.
right? A normal
Yeah.
life, right? So I mean, do you hear, I mean, you've already heard a couple no's, you've already heard a couple
Mhm.
nevers, right? Do you hear you're never gonna walk again? Do you hear okay, you do.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I had a young doctor who was really just getting his sea legs. And he was my attending. And when I asked him, which was pretty stupid, I shouldn't have asked him. I asked if he thought that I would ever walk again. And he said, probably. He's like, with your injuries and the way that this is, he's like, I can't imagine a world where you'd be able to do that. And I was a person where like I used to be able to run a mile in 5 minutes and 18 seconds. Like I was an athlete, really. Like it was how I defined myself. And that was what he had told me. And I remember I had a moment with him before I left that hospital. And I was like, you have to know that the people that you're talking to are human beings. I'm only 2 years younger than you are, or maybe 4 years younger than you. I was like, if you and I had met at a bar, you would probably hit on me because I'm charming and very cute. And I was like, you have to see people as human beings. I was like, I'm lucky because I don't believe you. But most people who don't have a family like I do, don't have a background like I do, I was like, you would have ruined their lives. That was this, and he apologized, and we actually were in touch over the years. Yeah,
Do you think it? So you think it landed?
it actually did because I called him the year anniversary after the crash happened, and I was like, "Do you remember me?" Because he had given my parents his phone number in case anything had come up, and I was like, "Do you remember me?" He's like, "You're kind of hard to forget," and I was like, "True," and I was like, "Do you remember how you told me that I would never walk again?" And he's like, yeah. And I named some like random, meat packing club. And I was like, I just want to let you know that I went dancing last night. And I looked real good. And I was just like, I was like, what are you doing now? I was like, how are you doing? And he was like, it has shifted the way in which I interact with patients. He's like, it changed the trajectory of my career, that conversation. He's like, I now work with children and the way that I talk to patients. And I actually, interestingly enough, did a talk at a hospital that he had worked at. And somebody came up to me and was like, I know him. I've worked with him. He mentioned you often, which was kind of incredible.
It's funny. I guess I have to ask, and then we're kind of back where we started. And I don't mean like you're going into a finance job, but these negative blessings that happen to us,
Mm.
like in the moment, not good.
Mm-mm.
Not, I mean, I don't want to be cheeky, right? But like me getting fired felt like me getting hit by a truck in that
Agreed.
moment,
Yes.
right? Like getting fired feels like I remember I can still see me walking out and I was embarrassed and I was sad and I was mad and like, how could I give 7 years of my life to this place? Like, and feeling like, but yet now I look back at that day as one of the best days of my life.
Yeah.
and look, someone used this word with me. Michael Thatcher is the CEO of Charity Navigator, and I was talking about my journey, and he talked about the gestation period, and that in my gestation period, I used it as a chip on my shoulder.
Yeah.
I was angry. I was going to prove something. I was going to show you. And, now I don't think that it's like I'm at peace with who I am. I'm at peace with where I am. But I'm also like, if that moment doesn't happen, I don't move to California, right? I don't become an entrepreneur. There's no, I'm sure there's a courageous podcast. It's just not. So there's a different person running this show here. So one, do you look back at that day, days really? Do you see it as a negative blessing? Like if you had a magic wand, would you go back and not do that again? Or do you think this Katie would be a completely different Katie, but where would she be?
Yeah. I love that question. Thank you for asking it. I think I wouldn't change anything. I really wouldn't. I love old Katie. I love her. She is so sweet and naive, and she is fearless, and she has no idea about anything but thinks she knows everything. And I love her for being strong enough to hold on, but I don't want the life that she was going to live. I feel like it would have been awesome, I'm sure, in a lot of ways, but it would not have pushed me to be so empathetic, to think about other people's experiences, to want to live a life of service, and to also just really fight for joy. I aggressively chase joy in a way that I didn't before, because I understand that it's not promised to me. I'm not entitled to a life. I'm blessed with one. And I know how quickly it can go away. So why not love the crap out of every single one of those days? And I really do love this life that I'm leading. I think it's so different and weird and not at all what I thought it would be, in a way that's phenomenal. I feel, my parents and I talk about it sometimes, because I'll ask them, I'll be like, do you miss old Katie? Because there's a lot of stuff that's interesting about this version of myself. It's like the chronic pain is less than ideal. I'd prefer that. The post-traumatic stress of it is not the coolest. And I feel emotions in big ways. Like there is nothing small about the way in which I love big, I feel big. And I've asked my parents about it, and they were just like, old Katie was great, but she didn't love this hard. She didn't want to do as much. She thought beyond her own fingers. She didn't really think beyond her own fingertips. And now I just feel like my world is a lot bigger, and I want to do so much more.
Wait, you're not on Wall Street anymore?
I mean, you would think. Yeah, I'm out here like I'm a queen of capital. Thank you.
I want to give you some love on this, because I love on your website, you say, I'm Katie McKenna, aggressive chaser of joy, which is how I feel too. Like I'm trying to design a life, right, that allows me to help people push and nudge in the most, it sounds odd to say this, but in the most safe way possible for courage, right? Like the more stories that we share like yours, Katie, I think the more people will have the courage. It could be small steps, but to go be themselves and enjoy all the little victories along the way.
Yeah.
All right. So what are you doing now? What have you been up to?
Well, first of all, before I just a thought just came to me that I just want to share with you, is I love that you're nudging people in a safe and like safe way. Because I love that courage is core, like of the heart. I just think that's what courage really is. It's just love in action, and it's pushing people to be the best versions of themselves. And I love that for what you do and how you do it.
Well, it's crazy. I'm glad. I appreciate you acknowledging that. One of the things that we have, what a surprise, there's a lot of lines that have been written about what we do when you're a writer, right? Yeah. We've got Brave What's Hard over my shoulder here, but another one is Your Future is Safe with Change. And I think one of the things I've learned is that when it's from the heart, when it's genuine, in some ways for being in the courageous world, you have to create enough safety, right? Hey, there's a hard conversation that has to happen. There's a hard question that has to be asked. Do you feel safe enough? Have you created a safe enough environment for that dialogue?
Yeah.
Tough love is really what it is.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Tough
Do you love
fear.
someone enough to tell them the truth? Do you
Right.
love them enough to push them to be brave? Like if you love someone, you have to allow for them to be expansive and to grow. And keeping people small that's not brave.
Or like I always joke that like when I do a lot of writing work on my own, like what is my, not only what are my fears, but what's my intentions? I want to be the best friend I can be to somebody. And I'm like, when did friend become a different 4-letter F word at work?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think probably why we get along so well is I feel that you come at it the same way. It's like, it is tough love, but it is like, I want to get to know you, who you really are. So you're writing a lot, you're speaking, you're coaching. I don't think you live in Brooklyn anymore, or near Brooklyn anymore.
No. I did what most normal people, in their 30s do, is they live in Williamsburg, in like Brooklyn for, 15 years. And then they're like, what school? Vermont. Let's Vermont, shall we? Yeah. So that's been a very interesting shift in life. Yeah. I left my finance job. I just felt really stuck and just felt like I wasn't giving. I made kind of like a little promise to the universe that I would try to make the world better for having me in it if I was able to survive. And I was like, okay, well, we'll see what that looks like in finance. Not really as much as you'd think. Then I went into nonprofit. And while I was working in finance and while I was in the hospital, I wrote a book. And I was like, maybe that's a way to kind of help and create change. Did the nonprofit thing, did not feel like it was having enough impact. And when the book that I wrote got published, people started to reach out to me and were like, this book really meant a lot to me. I'd love to talk to you about some challenges that I'm having in my own life. And I was like, well, that'd be great. I'd love to be helpful. I don't have any training per se. Like I don't have any certifications, but I do have like the School of Hard Knocks, literally. Let's see if this could be helpful. And I started to coach people for free. It wound up that they saw really big and meaningful changes in their life. And I absolutely loved it. And it felt like I was fulfilling a mission that I didn't even know that I had. So I quit my nonprofit job and I started my own business. And now I work with entrepreneurial professionals or just people in general who are looking to kind of create meaningful change in their life and need to be supported with a small bites and little victories mindset in order to create the life that they're really excited to live.
How long have you been at it?
Been all in about 7 or 8 years.
Keep at it. All right. I feel like this has been the cliche machine show a little bit, like, right? Like hit by a truck, right? Which I know I shouldn't have so much laissez-faire on that, so forgive me.
Listen, the only thing that's important, right, is that you just note that it's not hit, it was run over. It's a totally different deal. There were wheels involved. I didn't get shoved. This wasn't a little tippy tap. You know what I mean? So just...
Okay. Run over by a truck sounds way, way worse.
It's more Looney Tunes cartoon about it.
In the spirit of the cliches, though, I have to ask, have you gotten back on a bike?
That is an amazing question. I love that. So do you want me to be like a cliche machine? Is that the first time I got back onto a bike was when I was at Burning Man. Like,
oh, that's awesome. That's cool.
It was amazing. I went and I was totally, because I had a lot of PTSD around it. I was terrified and I was like, okay, worst case, I'm just going to walk the playa. It'll be okay. Yeah. And we got out there the first night and I had this adorable little beach cruiser and it was so beautiful and miraculous and just so freeing. It was such a relief and a release and so magical. And it could not have been more perfect. So I've done that. And then I've gotten back on a couple more times, like usually in places where there aren't many other cars, like Fire Island on Long Island. I'll do that, and on bike trails. And I do also, I've really gotten into Peloton. So I'm curious if that might also, like, I feel really encouraged. I feel much stronger. So I don't know. And my daughter she's going to be 3. So pretty soon there's going to be some bike experiences and I don't want to miss out on that. So I'm trying to brave up for it in time.
That's amazing. And did you, when you went to Burning Man, was it intentional? Like, I am going to ride a bike there, or did you just get there and then Burning Man happened?
I got there and I bought a bike with being like, I'm going to set myself up for success and really hope that this will be the moment and the time and the place. And I'm going to be gentle with myself if I don't. But I was like, I want to have a full experience. And I'm more afraid of missing this opportunity than I am of facing, the PTSD of this. So I don't want to lose this amazing opportunity. And so I was like, let's just jump and let the net appear. And beautifully it did.
We've been jamming here with Katie McKenna. She's a writer. She's a speaker. She's a coach. She's a chaser of joy. I'm sorry, an aggressive chaser of joy. My takeaway from hearing your story, change, none of us get a say on it. Like, it's happening whether you like it or not. When change drives us, that is an act of resilience. And I think when you're driving change, it's an act of courage. They're different muscles, but they play together. Like, you had a very resilient 24-hour period in your life.
Yeah.
And it sparked you to like be an aggressive chaser of joy, which to me feels like you doing everything in your power to drive change, which is a courageous act. And it's cool because sometimes for me, the lesson that I've learned from you is I don't know if I compartmentalize those two, but I haven't like, oh yeah, there's moments where you can be resilient and it will actually charge you into a moment of courage. So I thank you for that. I'm excited to hear you're doing your thing and like what comes next for you. And let's, obviously people can find you, katiecmckenna.com.
Yep, that's it. And then, on socials, Katie C. McKenna as well. And the book that I wrote is How to Get Run Over by a Truck. You can tell a little bit of my comedy background because the first line is, it's how to get run over by a truck. And the first line of the book is, my first recommendation is to ride a bicycle.
All right. And where can one buy your book?
It's on Amazon and it's in a few bookstores still, but it's definitely there on Amazon.
All right, Katie. Appreciate you joining.
Thanks so much for having me. This was such a joy.
I feel like, well, that's good. As a chaser of joy, this is where we're doing our job here, right?
Complete delight.
All right, good, Katie. All right, stay in touch.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Courageous Podcast. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts so more people can find us. See you again next week.